Good morning. Before the start of the sermon, I would like to take a moment to read our passage for today. Today's reading is from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to throw away stones, and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to tear, and a time to sow. A time to keep, and a time to throw away. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time for love, and a time for hate. A time for war, and a time for peace. As a driver, one of my constant fears is kids playing too close to the road. I don't know if any of you are like this, but when kids are playing, there might as well be no speed limit sign. Because you'll see me going 20, 15, 10, maybe even 2 miles an hour to get by. I just know that with my luck, the one time that ball comes in the road and the kid chases it, that's gonna be my car. A couple of weeks ago, on a beautiful and sunny day, there were 2 little boys playing in their front yard. And on my street, there's this big curve, and it's nerve-wracking because you can't see who's on the other side of that curve, and it's nice and wide, but there's usually cars parked. And so as I'm trying to make sure that I don't hit the cars and I'm watching the children intently, I just squeak by. There was an adult near them, and she was close by but paying attention to her gardening. But then as I passed, there was another car coming the other direction that I don't think had my same level of paranoia about these kids playing. And sure enough, time seemed to stand still. She looked up and she saw the ball roll into the street, and without even a moment's hesitation, the little boy running after it. She got there just in time to grab him and pull him to the sidewalk and get him to safety. She got down on his level and looked straight in his eyes and said, "You can't do that. You have to be careful. You need to be safe. You could have gotten hurt." Well, the neighbors could have heard her shouting. I know I could with my window up. But the question I have is this: was she mothering in that moment? I think we could all agree that she was being a good mother, and her behavior fit that situation. However, in our society, we often hear mothers described as soft, humble, meek, and self-sacrificing. But this woman in the story was being stern, loud, and was disciplining. The truth is, motherhood, and even the word mother, can be difficult to define. Mother's Day can be very complicated for many. As we work to figure out who to say Happy Mother's Day to or how to define the word mother, what about a woman who's pregnant? She can feel the baby moving inside her. She spends much of her day making sure she is eating right and getting the right amount of exercise to take care of the child within. But the baby has not been born yet. Is she a mother? What if someone cares for a child, but is not their biological mother? but they do stand in to mother for other children. What about foster mothers who constantly have children in and out of their house to take care of, but maybe this Mother's Day don't have someone to take care of today? Do you wish them a happy Mother's Day? What about if a child passes or a woman loses her baby in a miscarriage? Are they a mother? Beyond just the term mother, the word motherhood is also challenging. What does it mean to be in the act of mothering or mean to mother? Attributes associated with mothering seem to change over time. But I recently saw a YouTube video that I thought really summed up the stereotypes of motherhood today and what some people may see as important to mothering. The video takes place at a park, and it kind of shows camps or groups of moms that are sticking together. There's a stereotype of the crunchy granola mom that is seen as obsessed with organic food. There are the breast police moms that look down on anyone who is using formula. There are the part-time moms that are using formula because it's faster. There are the corporate moms who are on their cell phones and say out loud that stay-at-home moms are lazy and that they are able to have it all. There are helicopter moms and eco moms. The eco moms may turn up their nose at anyone using disposable diapers. And in the video, all the groups seem to be preparing for a big fight because they're trying to say that their way of mothering is superior. But just before the big fight breaks out, one of the babies that's in a stroller begins to roll down a hill. Every mom stops and runs to help and catch the stroller that is getting away from the mother. When they all get the baby and the baby is safe, the point of the video is this: that there is something about mothering that is common to everyone who cares for other people. And in that moment of trying to help and care for someone's safety, they begin to break past their own stereotypes. Let's go back to that story at the beginning with the kids playing in the yard and the woman that saved them. What if I told you that this woman in the story is not the little boy's mother? She was gardening nearby, but she was the next door neighbor who had lived next door for 10 years. She cares for her community and loves all of the kids in the community as if they were her own. But she has either decided not to or was maybe not able to have biological children. But I argue that while she may not have been the boy's biological mother, she was mothering in that moment. The actions of mothering may be defined differently for each person, but there is a time in life that I think all people are called to the actions of mothering. And there is a time that we also need to be mothered. Our passage today from the book of Ecclesiastes tells us something about mothering and times. The word Ecclesiastes tells us about the author of the book because the word means someone who gathers a group of people together. So the author of this book was likely an official who had to take responsibility for others. The leader was trying to help people talk about how to live a godly life and what that meant to search for God and live out that godly life. That's why the author urges people to remember God's gifts of finding time for things that may seem opposite, but there is a time for everything under heaven. As Christians, we define living a godly life as one that has a relationship with Jesus and answers the call to follow him. As we follow Jesus and learn from his actions on earth, we can learn a lot about mothering. I have been cautioned throughout my seminary career not to say things about Jesus in absolutes. You can never be 100% sure, and you need to leave room for humility. However, I'm going to go out on a limb today and say that I am sure, 100%, that Jesus was never a biological mother. He didn't quite have the right parts. However, we can see that he took care of others by loving and offering practical support. We may all define mothering in different ways. We may have varying degrees and examples in mothering and what motherhood may mean. But we can still learn from Jesus' actions and this passage from Ecclesiastes. Jesus embodies what it means to be loving, forgiving, a teacher, a strong guide, and many other things that I personally associate with mothering. I can also associate these very same attributes with fathering in a way that shows that every person, regardless of gender, can care for others. It is the type of care for others that may make it mothering or fathering. Even those who have their own biological children can be this type of presence for the community, for everyone in need. I will freely admit that there are times that I still need someone to nurture, support, love, forgive, and teach me, even though I'm an adult. As we turn to the wisdom that is in our passage and learn from Jesus for how to take care of others, I would like to offer an interpretation of our scripture for today as it relates to a time for mothering. There is a time to be a mother and a time to stop. A time to instill lessons and a time to step back and observe. A time to discipline and a time for grace. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to leave room for independence and a time to be together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. Perhaps a profound yet simple definition for the act of mothering that we can all do is this: care for the people in your life. Be there for others when they need you. And lean on others when you need help. You do not need to be a biological mother or even a woman to do this. But it is a way that we can live out Jesus' call and many invitations to love our neighbors and care for our community. Remember the woman from our story in the beginning? I heard later that when she took the little boy home to explain to his mother what had happened, she knocked on the door and waited, kind of paralyzed in fear, for the mom to answer. You see, while she was very happy that she was able to save the boy in time before the car hit, she was really unsure of how the mother would react when she had to tell them that she yelled at the woman's son. She was worried she had overstepped her bounds, and that was not her place. As the woman answered the door, the woman that had saved him gave the facts to the mother about the car, and then she told her about the shouting. She explained that she just wanted him to be safe and glad the boy was okay. The boy's mother gave her a big hug and said thank you for not judging me. You see, I know I should have been outside with the boys, but I told them the rules of staying in the front yard, and I had so much to do, and I thought they'd be okay. The two women smiled at each other, And then the boy's mother said she had always wanted to live by the rule that it takes a village or a community to raise a child. And she was so grateful that she could live in such a great community where people take care of one another. Our church, our community, even our world will continue to be a better place as we all take up the call to follow Jesus by caring for those around us. Amen.